Welcome back to another high-level match of StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a best-of-3 series of Zerg versus Protoss, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on... of course, it's Ancient Cistern. I definitely did not just unhide the UI to figure out exactly what the map name is. Spotted right here in the bottom left-hand corner, playing with the red Protoss probes from South Korea, we have herO. His opponent in the opposite corner with the blue Zerg drones, he goes by the name of Dark. Alrighty, Dark versus herO in a best-of-3 series, as these guys start off with the natural deaths. This is a weird mating ritual between Protoss and Zerg players where, okay, Zerg players eventually do get the natural up, but that was much later than Dark originally had it planned. That is a little bit interesting. Most Zerg players at this level of play will be more than happy to take the third base first. There's of course a few disadvantages, but honestly, they're not really that big, and there's a couple of advantages as well. The main disadvantage is that drones that spawn out of these cocoons right over here, they're gonna have to travel all the way around, so you lose a couple of seconds of mining time. You don't have that problem when you have the natural taken first. The main advantage, though, is that, well, you can start spreading creep from right over here, right? You put down a creep tumor, and you can, well, spread it straight towards the center of the map right at the very start, which is honestly really, really nice. Now, of course, you do have to be on point with your early game defense, since the creep will not be connecting the natural and the third and the main base and all that very quickly, and you don't really have Zergling speed super early on in this matchup. Usually, you will need to make sure that you have your units in the right place at the right time, that your queens are in the right spot as well. But anyways, all this is to say that Dark decided to take his natural rather than his third base first, which is very common in StarCraft 2. It's just interesting he decided to take it at like 18 supply. Anyhow, this is Dark, of course, a very flexible Zerg, not really all too surprising. Cybercore is done. It's gonna be a Stargate opener right here from herO. herO, of course, well known for his Stargate play. Generally speaking, he goes for Oracle builds. Oracle into Phoenix, double Oracle, triple Oracle, 5 Oracles. He basically likes to go for Oracles. The main advantage of going Oracles early on is that you can take your third base really nice and quick. So usually if you go for an Oracle first, you can take your third Nexus at about 3 minutes and 45 seconds, which with pretty much every other Protoss built out there would be a little bit too greedy. The thing is, of course, early on Zerg doesn't have a lot of units that can go on the offensive that can shoot up. And obviously Zerglings, they can get zapped away really, really nicely by that very first Oracle. So that's what I'm expecting right here from our Protoss player, who actually decides to go for a Phoenix. Okay. So maybe Phoenix into Oracle, that would be a viable option. If herO decides to take, like the downside of a Phoenix first, right, is if you decide to take your third Nexus at 345 like you would with an Oracle opener, if you do that, so he goes for an Oracle right now on the back of it, you will end up losing the Nexus if Zerg makes a round of Zerglings. So right now is the moment where Dark will see that it's a Phoenix first. What does he queue up next? Does he go additional links or does he keep droning up? Apparently we're not spending any of our larva. That is interesting. Oh, nice snipe right there on the creep tumor. Yeah, okay, he does add on additional Zerglings. Dark can basically never resist that level of bait. Dark knows that if there is a quick third Nexus right now, he's gonna be able to counter it. The thing is, this is not a quick Nexus on the back of it. I mean, it's still pretty quick. It's about 358, 57-ish. Now the Oracle is available though, and it is gonna be used right here for the third base defense. So in the end, I actually think it's a really good start right here for herO, because essentially he forced out a big round of Zerglings that Dark really can't make use of right now. I mean, he might use them offensively once again, but as long as there's an Oracle patrolling at the third base, he should be okay. Shield battery coming up as well. Adept's not perfectly positioned. You're gonna have to activate the pulsar beam. Okay, we do it after one of the Adept goes down. Second Adept! Ooh, does go down as well. Okay, well, the main thing to look at the earlier stages of a game like this is the worker count. So we're currently at 43 probes versus 33 drones, which is a fantastic situation right here for the Protoss. The main advantage of opening up Stargate is that you can actually go toe-to-toe with a Zerg player, who can obviously power out a lot of workers very, very quickly. And even though he hasn't killed any workers in this particular game, he still has done an excellent job making sure that he is A-okay in that department. A lot of links still out on the map. He decided to add on more, which I honestly don't like. Like, what exactly are these additional Zerglings going to achieve? Not a whole lot. They're just gonna sort of sit there. In the meantime, we're also losing a couple of drones at home. Not the start that you're looking for here as a Zerg player at all. Okay, a couple of Overlords also mispositioned. Some uncharacteristic mistakes right here coming out of Dark. Yeah. He's trying his best to play a flexible early game here, but turns out this more rigid approach from herO is working out really nicely. herO losing 2 of those Adepts, honestly unnecessarily. If he would have kept both of those alive, or at the very least one of them, that would have been absolutely amazing. But this has been going really well right here for Protoss. Okay, so we already are up to 4 Oracles right now. That is interesting. And now finally the Robo facility goes down and we've started up the charge upgrade together with the +1 ground weapons. Okay. So that Phoenix actually has 3 confirmed kills. It can even lift up the Queen as well if it wants to. Taking a little bit of damage. There you go. Yeah, no, that wasn't ideal, but the idea was cool. Phoenix doesn't serve that much of a purpose anymore anyways. And with this amount of Oracles, look at that. Yeah, with good shuffling, with good control, that's another 9 workers down the drain. 11 right now have gone down in total. Okay. There is a shield battery over here, so that Adept should be able to hold. And these Zerglings have just not achieved anything, right? Like, they've been here for a while. The thing is, every single one of these Zerglings is half a drone. Right? 2 of these Zerglings could have been a drone earlier on. So if all of these would have been workers, I mean, maybe these Adepts would have gone a little bit more adventurously out into the map, but Dark definitely has not been in a good economical spot here this entire game so far, and it's gonna make things more difficult moving forward. You really want to be at an advantage at this point in the game as the Zerg. Okay, so we have the Templar Archives together with the Robo Bay at the same time, basically. Interesting. +1 flyer attacks also starts up right here. That's the +1 air weapons. Okay, we do have a couple of Archon Morphins over here, fair enough. The only reason to go +1 air weapons, because Oracles don't benefit from it. See, these guys are space wizards, right? As we've already discussed in the past. These guys are magic deal, or they deal magic damage, so they don't benefit from that +1 upgrade. Okay, yeah, the only thing that makes sense is if you are planning to go for a late game army, or maybe like Mass Phoenix or something along those lines, but it's a fleet beacon. So he's probably gonna go straight into Tempest or Carriers from here, which is an interesting approach. We have a Templar Archives, we've got a Robo Bay, and we've got a fleet beacon. So herO is looking at this early game, and he's decided, yo, I could probably go for my standard approach, the one that I take most games, but I can also just play a straight up late game and skip essentially all early and mid game tech. Okay. Is this going to backfire? Zerg now, moving around the map. 25 roaches are already out. Roach speed about 80% of the way done. A lot of queens are waiting over here too. They really want to grab that prism, but so far, I mean, a couple units have gone down on the side of the Protoss, but really not that many. Carrier indeed is coming. We only have a single Stargate here, so Carrier Disruptor Archon is ultimately what we're producing here. All very expensive units though. So can he hold on? If he ends up losing a 4th Nexus, this entire build is pointless. There's a lot of static defense over here. He doesn't have a lot of splash damage, but he still has those Oracles, yeah. Those Oracles, I mean, there's nothing to shoot up here for the Zerg. He killed one of them with the Queens, I would imagine, but... Okay. This has been a bit of an awkward game here for Dark. So Dark finally has got a good eco. He's finally got something going for himself here. He's got the bailing speed, he's going +2 melee, but none of those things will help him out in the long run. And like, if this game goes on for like another 5 minutes, herO's army is gonna walk all over the Zergs, mostly because there's really not a whole lot of units that Zerg has with this sort of army that are good against the army that herO is going for. Okay, well that's a big hit. 18 probes. Just the blink of an eye. You love to see it, unless you're a Protoss player. Okay, good amount of damage being done here by the Zerg. Still, he needs to start making units here that are actually going to serve him here in the long run. Best case scenario is you kill 19 probes, right? That's basically the best case scenario. He's going to need an army that will be strong against the Protoss here eventually. Now, once more, we're going in from 2 sites. Okay, Bailing's over there, not really getting a whole lot done. Roaches over here, though, do grab a couple of Archons, so that is nicely done. Excellent splits as well by the Zerg player for the most part. He's just trying to snipe whatever he can. Spire is... Ooh, these are very juicy Bailing connections too, though. But Spire is about halfway done. Okay, yeah, he's trying to trade to the best of his abilities. Really nice attack right here from Dark. I actually did not think it was going to work out nearly that well. I mean, when you're pushing into this Raptor carrier, like Archon with a bunch of, what are these called? Oracles still up in the air. When you're pushing into that with Roachling Bane, you wouldn't expect to be particularly successful, but Dark does what Dark does best. 11 drones have gone down in total here, but 22 probes. Very nice. Okay, so I think the idea right here for Dark is to ultimately build a very large group of Corruptors. But at this point, he's looking at this and like, you know what? I've done enough damage to keep you pinned back for a little while longer. I'm just going to continue doing what I was doing already earlier on. This time around, we do have +2. +2 Banelings are able to one-shot probes. Now, these Archons are really nicely positioned, actually. I love that. Yeah, Protoss is relatively spread out. Okay, maybe these Banelings can go in eventually, and it will, okay, at the very least kill a couple of workers. Not as many as you're hoping for. Banelings over here as well at the front. Even the gateway goes down. I mean, the Cybercore kill would have been even better because the +2 is researching over there. Air weapons level 2 finishing up, as you can see on the right side of the screen. Protoss is making a death bowl. Protoss is trying to make an army that Zerg conventionally struggles against. So usually against these mass Skytles wars that we used to see, I mean, we haven't seen them a whole lot over like the last 6 months. Pretty uncommon, but generally Zerg would go for like 50+ Spore Crawlers, Mass Corruptor, Infestor, Viper, the whole shebang. That Prism, by the way, still hanging out over here. Yeah, now it gets spotted, but a little too late. Upon seeing those Corruptors though, so the Prism not going down completely in vain, immediately, oh, well, never mind. He started up a bunch of Void Rays and now he's going back into carrier production. Stasis wards here at the front. Man, I feel like the Natural has been overrun so many times already, but somehow units haven't really gotten in. Kind of funny. We should really see a unit over there in that wall up though. One Disruptor ends up going down. Archon's underneath though, to make sure that as many... Oh, I missed a little bit of a Baneling detonation over here down south. Let me just go back real quick. We did see the Archons right there underneath all of the Corruptors, which is really sweet. This is so messy though, yeah. So the entire Protoss army is pulled towards the left side of the map, and that is the 1-2 punch that Dark is trying to create. Coming in with the Banelings down south. That justifies his attack pretty much completely. Assuming he doesn't lose too much over here. But other than a couple Corruptors here, he doesn't have that much to deal with like 6 carriers. As long as he can keep the Protoss player pinned back though, he doesn't really need to do too much. Now a couple of units do break into the main base. A few Zealots should be able to make work of that. He will scout though that there are a lot more big boys on the production tab right now for herO as well. I'm surprised herO decided to play this kind of game, to be honest. Like, his early game was amazing. He went into the mid game with basically anything he could have done. Like, he had options available for days. And he decides to go for this approach. Which I'm curious to see how this is going to play out, because we haven't seen, like I said, we haven't seen this strategy all too much. Looks like there may have been a bit of a pause in the game. Anyways. It's interesting. So now we're up to 8 Archons and 6 carriers though. There are 110 Zerglings, absolutely awful against this. I think the plan for Dark is to go for a full-on counterattack. That Prism is going to get sniped right away. Killing the Cybercore here before +3 is done is really sweet. That air weapons level 3 does get denied. Protoss army actually decides to go back home. A couple of Archons and a few Zealots are left behind as well. Is there enough right here for Zerg to actually grab these units in the middle of the map? Well, he kills 1 carrier, but that's not quite enough. Zerglings, though, properly upgraded with +2, they deal a lot of damage. Look at them. Going absolutely to town. Maybe even killing the Nexus here on the low ground, too. Archon over here. Okay, it's got 11 confirmed kills. 21 drones have gone down as well. Zerg reinforcements are eventually going to take care of that. Looks like the Nexus actually does live for now, and that is pretty sweet. How are the carriers? Okay, the carriers are still around. So as long as the carrier and the Archon count is high, Protoss can always threaten the Zerg. Yeah, Dark not going for the unit comp that he is incredibly good at controlling. He's not going for that Infestor, Viper, Corruptor, Spore Crawler, Queen, you know, like that 7 hands are required type of unit comp. Instead, he's going for a low-tier army. Okay, this is what herO's been building up for. Once again, massive Zergling counterattack. Couple Archons available, but they don't have Adrenal Glands, so that is super tricky. Archons, once again, trying to get underneath. Good transfusions right there on the Queens. Zerglings trying to be as obnoxious as possible. These Archons are amazing, though. Without Adrenal Glands, without Hive Tech, these Lings are not as scary as they could be. I really think there should be Adrenal Glands on these Zerglings at this point. Archons hunting down the Corruptors. And with the Corruptors going down, it's herO who obtains the win in game number 1. Next up, we find ourselves on another large map, and this one is called Altitude. Once again, a Stargate opener right here from herO. So, I really like the first half of that previous game for the Protoss. Honestly amazing, right? He was ahead in basically every aspect of the game. He dealt a lot of damage on the side of the Zerg. He forced out all of those Lings, and they didn't really get a whole lot done. And then he decided to make it, what seemed to me, unnecessarily difficult on himself. Like, he won the game in the end, but not very confidently. I honestly wonder what that game would have looked like if Dark did not fall behind in the earlier stages. Because I've got a feeling it would have been a little bit trickier, right? Like, at that point, he would probably have been thinking about going up towards the Hive. Like, he was basically playing a desperation game in the second half of that match. He definitely would have gone up to Hive. He definitely would have started a +3 melee. He probably would have gone Adrenal Glands. And then suddenly, those Zergling counterattacks, they would have done way more damage. Like, with +3 and Adrenal Glands, Zerglings can actually, sort of, start contesting Archons. Anyhow, interesting approach right there from herO. We'll see what he does in game number 2. Generally speaking, the follow-up that herO is very fond of, as he's going for the good old Oracle opener this time around, is that Stalker +1 based army, right? So that Mass Blink Stalker approach. He's very good at it. His unit control is amazing. But he decided to go for something entirely different in that previous game. So it was Twilight Council with Charge, straight into a Robo facility, then into a Robo Bay, a Fleet Beacon, as well as a Templar Archives. Now, once again, this is really good right here for the Protoss. Killing 3 workers, not bad at all. Taking maybe a little bit more hull damage there than we ultimately want to see, but pretty dang good, that's for sure. Anyways, he decided to go for all tech at once. So I think that's him taking the advantage after grabbing that lead. But he could have just gone for his conventional approach, right? He could have gone for, like, an Archon charge lot attack. He could have gone for a Mass Blink Stalker approach. Man, 7 drones? Are you kidding me? What in the world, man? 7 drones, 2 creep tubers? I'm not really even covering the game because I assume that Dark isn't going to take that much damage. But that was way more damage than he needed to take. Okay, Dark. You gotta tighten up the early game a little bit. My favorite part about these Zerg early games, and I mean favorite part as in, like, I don't really get it, is they delay Spore Crawlers for a really long time, right? So purposefully, they don't make the Spore Crawlers for a very long time, because in theory, you can defend your mineral lines with good queen positioning, right? Yet, it happens all the time, even at the tippity top of the skill level, that those oracles kill a bunch of drones. So if you gotta make Spore Crawlers eventually anyways, why not? I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. So now we have 9 workers here, going down in total in this game. When I feel like a lot of that... Ooh, okay, that was good. A lot of that could have been prevented just by going for those spores a little bit quicker. Large group of Adepts also showing up right now. This is completely different than what we saw in the previous game. It is Adept without the Glaives upgrade, as he decided to go for the Charge once again. So Charge with +1 is really sweet. The reason why this timing attack is very dangerous for the Zerg is because normally, by default, Zealots with Charge, well, it doesn't really matter, but Zealots, they 3-shot Zerglings, so they have to slice once and twice with their hands, and then, you know, one of their hands has to attack once again. The main difference is when you get +1 and Zerg doesn't have any armor upgrades, those Zealots can now 2-shot Lings. So you go from taking 3 hits to kill a Zergling to only 2. And with the way that Zealots attack, it is a very significant change, a very significant difference. So I wouldn't mind seeing herO go for a timing attack that I just suggested, where you go for the +1, you go for the charge upgrade, and then you add on a couple of Archons, you drop all of your gas on Archons, and you decide to go for one big push. Okay. Dark has been holding down the drone button to the best of his abilities. He once more has a lot of links roaming the map. These adepts, man. I love these little builds that that herO plays. So he goes 7 adepts without glaives. It's so funny. He uses them for a very quick 4th nexus, apparently. And to put on some pressure on the Zerg to force out all of these links. It's a little bit more difficult to quantify, I guess, right? The amount of damage you deal by forcing out units on your opponent's side of the map. Because Zerg really doesn't want to be making all these links. But yeah. Even though we've very easily seen him do, well, 9 workers worth of damage, he's also done a lot of damage by forcing out this many Zerglings. 49 Zerglings are out on this. That's insane. So there's a unit over there. There are quite a few units over here as well. 49 Zerglings. With proper SimCity, which is exactly what herO has, he is not taking any damage from those. Completes the wall over here as well on the right side of the map. Shield batteries in the right place, unit on hold position in the wall off. These sort of Zergling builds, they would absolutely destroy a newbie player, right? Like myself. If I were to play against Dark, I would probably forget putting this on hold position. I would, I don't know, be delayed on my shield battery or not have my units in the right place over here. But if everything is on point, if you cross your T's, you dot your I's, which is exactly what herO does, you shouldn't take damage from all of those Zerglings. And that's exactly what's happened so far in this game. Once again, good position right here for Protoss. Zerg, though, this time around, taking an entirely different approach as well. Even though Dark refused to go for a hive in the previous game, now we have one about halfway done at the 8-minute mark. That's huge. Lurker Den also coming up right here for Dark. Protoss, by the way, not going for that Archon Zealot push that I suggested. Instead, he now decides to... he decides to transition towards... Phoenixes with a fleet beacon. Okay. There is a fleet beacon upgrade for the Phoenixes that gives them +2 range. Really nice upgrade, the Anion Pulse Crystals. It's just that normally when we see Phoenixes, we see them in the earlier stages of the game. Against mass Zergling Roach, Phoenixes are like the last unit you want. Yeah, look how long they take. That's 1 Roach. These are very cheap units. Still doubles down though. Immortals also, once again, do start up. Great idea. I do want to compliment the creep spread, by the way, on the side here of Dark. Who has been left alone for a long time now, and he's been, yeah, happily macroing up. So 6 of those lurkers already coming. We're also starting up the Spore Crawlers. Okay, so Dark has taken an entirely different approach than he did in the previous game. So Dark is once again smelling Skytals. Oh, free Immortal. Always nice. Yeah, not really. No, could have probably had it, but... Anyways, Dark is once again smelling Skytals, so he is going for the ultimate Skytals counter. Step 1, make sure you don't die. Step 1 is done with mostly Lurkers and Spore Crawlers. You put them around the map. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Protoss to get much damage in. Step 2, make a stupid amount of workers. And then usually step 3 is aim for your ultimate army. The only thing I don't really like right here for Dark is that he still has not got a Spire. And as we all know, Hydras, they do shoot up, but they're not really considered to be amazing counters against against Skytals. So there's the Mama ship coming up. There's 3 carriers now on the production tab too. We never went any on Pulse Crystals, despite the fact that we've got this many Phoenixes. So it's kind of ironic, right? It's kind of like these Adepts. No Glaives for the Adepts, no Pulse Crystals for the Phoenixes. Okay, they're actually being sacrificed right now. This looks like a mistake, but he's just trading out whatever he can. Opening up more supply for him to go for more and more units. Same thing happening right here for the Zealots. Probably just trying to deal damage wherever he can. Keep that Zerg player pinned back for as long as possible, so he can queue up more and more carriers. And that's exactly what's happening right over here in that Stargate. Ooh, he actually even gets a kill right there on the hatch. Or cancel. Now the double Spire starts up. Yeah, so Dark is reading this very well. Maybe he wanted to go Spire a little bit quicker, but he saw the Phoenixes and he's like, I don't think I need them just yet. In the meantime, though, 3 carriers are already out. Mama ship already, well, about to pop. And we've got a very stellar economy. I like this position for Dark infinitely better, though. So I'm curious to see how this is ever going to play out right here for herO. Dark's basically been countering Skytles now since the 7-minute mark. Even though he wasn't really super focused on it just yet, it was certainly in the back of his mind, yeah. The Spore Crawler army is growing. We're already at 17, 5 more coming up. And he'll probably keep on adding on spores. He'll probably go for like up to 50. These games can certainly take a while, so I hope you got yourself a drink. I should probably take a sip of water myself. As you may have already noticed, I'm still getting over a cold. Yesterday was better than today for some reason. I don't really know, but... Anyways, I don't know if my voice is much different, but it sounds a little bit different in my ears. Anyhow, yeah, the Spore Crawler count is getting big. So, since the new multiplayer balance patch went live, we haven't really seen a whole lot of Skytles play. I don't really remember the last time I've seen proper late-game Skytles. And now herO is transitioning towards it twice in a row. This is very much so the Protoss player that decides when this sort of army gets played. Protoss doesn't need to play this army. Zerg is the one, though, that has to respond to it. So, it's very much so herO who makes this decision, which is interesting, because herO has always been... at least in my mind, a ground Protoss kind of guy, right? Like, he definitely can play Skytles, but there it is, by the way. Cute little move. So what you have to do is knock down the cooling tower. It destroys the watchtower, destroy the rocks. Then you can plant down a hatchery over here. We've got some parabombs, by the way, going down. Not bad. Anyways, this is 8 golden mineral patches, which is 2 more than a conventional 8, or, well, a conventional gold base. So 8 minerals is really, really nice. But here we go. The Protoss army is available. And, well, this is a scary force. Without Spore Crawlers present, without a whole lot of those Vipers ready to abduct, how in the world are you going to counter this? Personally, I suck at playing against Skytles. If you've been watching my channels for some time, you know that I probably primarily play Zerg. Or you probably know I primarily play Zerg. And that I lose against Skytles every single time. For like 7 years now. This is kind of looking like my games. I mean, I'm not nearly as good as Dark, but this is usually what happens when I play against Skytles. This is looking really bad right here for the Zerg. Like, you think you've got everything under control, but then the Protoss army suddenly shows up. You don't have all your units in the right place at the right time. You've got a gajillion Spore Crawlers, but, well, they're not where they need to be. They're at different intersections on the map, and not right over there. Dark... desperately trying to make as many Corruptors as possible, and he will get a decent number of them here eventually. He's gonna go up to 17. Void Rays are coming up, though. Void Rays, of course, very good. Now, there's a Parasitic Bomb. I love that. You know what they call that in the business? They call that the Loko maneuver. Flies all of those Corruptors into the carriers to try and get rid of all of those Interceptors, and, well, basically all of them are done. Love seeing Dark making the Loko maneuver. Just pausing the game for a second. I did not come up with that maneuver. I saw somebody else do it. And then I executed it on my live stream. Apparently, Harstam, I believe, was the one that was watching my stream when I went for that move. And then he called it the Loko maneuver because he had never seen it before, even though I had never come up with it. So what you do is you have Corruptors facing off against carriers. You throw Parasitic Bomb on the carriers. The carriers unleash all of their interceptors on the Corruptors, and then you fly the Corruptors into the carriers, so the splash damage that's on top of the carriers kills all of the interceptors. Since you cannot target interceptors manually, that's the only way you can very quickly dispose of them, and you can see right here, those carriers. They do not really put in a whole lot of damage anymore. Anyways, I'm gonna continue the game now. That's cute, right? I don't think Dark calls it the Loko maneuver. No, there's no way he calls it the Loko maneuver. He probably doesn't know who I am. But anyways, target firing down rather every single one of those heavy hitters. Protoss still showing up with a huge army, and we have 11 High Templar. Okay, being warped in. That is 5 Archons all at once, and one of them that needs a friend. The Protoss is gonna be deflected right here in the end, but that required every single trick right there out of the Zerg. Fantastic position once again for herO. Honestly, this is what I feel like when I play against Skytles. Like, you have all of those Spore Crawlers everywhere, right? You have static defense for days. You're not gonna die to a Zealot Warp in. But then Protoss just doesn't engage on that side of the map. And you're sitting there with all of your, well, good behavior and all of your static defense that isn't doing much. Okay, these are gonna be running away. Huh. I haven't seen Skytles much over the last couple of months. But herO certainly makes it look like it is still a very viable unit composition. It could certainly be that Dark hasn't played against this very much lately either. So he's just not very comfortable against it right now because he hasn't seen it much. But yeah, he's trying to make sure that this Protoss army is pinned back, using all of those lurkers. Trying his very best here to ensure that there's no Protoss army getting underneath this, right? So the Archons are phenomenal against those Corruptors, like we've already seen. But if the Archons can't advance because of the lurkers, and suddenly, well, I mean, he decides to go. I love those Phoenixes, actually. Look at the Phoenixes. Oh my god, that was so cute. He lifted up a couple of the lurkers and then immediately canceled again, which unburrows the lurkers, and then he lifted up another set. That allowed those Archons to stay alive for much longer, as Dark didn't re-burrow them. Now suddenly the Protoss army looks pretty much unstoppable, and it's herO who wins this series 2-0.